and welcome back to my channel. I'm Ashley, and if you have been watching my past few videos, you know that I have been going through some of my favorite go-to sourdough recipes. Now, I'm guessing you just heard my dog scratch at the front door. She's ready for dinner, and so are we. So let's get going. Before I get started, I do want to let you know a few things. My sourdough is active and bubbly, but that's not necessarily what you need for this recipe. You could just pull it straight out of the refrigerator and get started. Number two, this recipe does use commercial or baker's yeast as a quick rise agent. If you want to leave this out, go ahead and just plan to make your dough about 12 to 16 hours before you plan to make your pizza. And my final thing is this recipe makes one large pizza dough. So if you need more than that for your family, you're gonna want to double or triple your recipe. I typically double this recipe, but today I'm just gonna make it in a single batch and then make it a few times for my family. That way I can get some great and different camera angles. Let's go ahead and get started. To our stand mixer, we are going to add 1 cup of our sourdough. And before I get to using sourdough, if it is bubbly and active, I'll just give it a little stir. That way the bubbles kind of settle a little. Okay, 1 cup of sourdough. We need about a 1/2 cup of warm water. Now this will vary the amount that you need depending on how liquidy or how thick your sourdough is. Sometimes mine's on the thicker side, so we'll need more water. Sometimes it is on the thinner side, which I think it is right now because you can see that it's dripping. When it's on the thinner side, then you'll probably need right at that 1/2 cup of warm water. We need 1 teaspoon of salt, which I have a 1/2 teaspoon, so I'll pop 2 in there. And a 1/2 teaspoon of your commercial or baker's yeast. Again, if you want to leave that out, go ahead and do it. You just need to increase your rise time. And then to this, we need about 2.5 cups of flour. Again, that's a give or take depending on how the humidity is in your area, how dry or thick your starter is. So start with 2.5 cups. You may need to add a little more water, a little more flour. Just let's get going. And again, I use 1 measuring cup for all of my measurements. So I got about 1/2 of my 1 cup measuring cup from my flour container down below. Okay, now we'll go ahead and give this a whirl on our mixer. Okay, so our dough is done. While it was mixing, and because I've made this dough so many times, I know exactly what we're looking for, and we just want a soft, gorgeous pizza dough consistency. It's smooth, it's kind of stretchy, kind of not. I mean, it does kind of start breaking right there when you pull it, but it is really just a smooth dough. So to get to this texture, I did add about a tablespoon of olive oil. It is cold. I store it in my garage, so that's why it looks a little thick. But about a tablespoon of olive oil, and then I did add a little bit of water, a couple splashes, while it was in the mixer to get to this consistency. So what I would normally do at this time is let our dough sit at room temperature for about 4 hours, give or take. Again, because we have our yeast in it, it's not going to take as long on the counter. However, I do like to let it have extra time, and because I am actually preparing a bunch of these doughs to put into the freezer to take on our ski trip with us, I'm going to skip the rising time and put it straight into a freezer Ziploc bag. And then I'm gonna make a few more balls of dough to take with us. When we get to our cabin in the mountains, I will defrost the balls of dough and I will allow them to have that first rise time. Again, with pizza dough, you don't need to rise two separate rise times because the second one happens while it's in the oven. So I'll just sit this out at room temperature in a large container, let it rise, punch it down, roll it out, make our pizza, and pop that into the oven. And that's really it. Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to check back for the footage from our ski trip. See you next time. Goodbye.